All right, Tim, did you bring the crystal ball?
No.
Well, just full disclaimer, guys, we'll be winging this one then.
I know it's going to be hard.
If the A770, 8GB, I got used to saying that as well, A770, because reviews perhaps coming soon. If that starts at $330 US and the 6650 XT regularly falls into the same price range, which one would your crystal ball guess to recommend us gamers to buy? I think it's pretty easy to answer that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't... Again, it's hard to say without seeing the performance of it, but I would not buy an Intel product if it offered the same price to performance ratio.
Has to be. But we say the same thing about AMD versus NVIDIA.
Yeah, so it has to be better price to performance ratio. And I think it's, again, if I was going to predict the performance, I'd say that's probably unlikely. So, yeah, I mean, I think the price that they've already gone with of $330 is quite low. Like, there were rumors ages ago that it was supposed to be more like 370 competitor, 370 Ti competitor, that sort of range. And those were supposed to be $500 GPUs, but the market has changed substantially since then. And even AMD's competitor, the 6700 XT, is now like below $400. So that's AMD's competitor to the target that Intel originally had for their part. And that's already fallen that far. So I think $330, yeah, it's a bit weird because it seems like a low price, but then is it low enough?
Yeah. And we don't necessarily need a crystal ball because, well, to answer the two different scenarios. So if it's similar in terms of price to performance to a Radeon GPU, or a GeForce GPU for that matter, but we're using Radeon GPUs because of the question, I can't see why you would buy a new entrant into the GPU market that is known not to have the driver support that it needs to have to compete on an even playing field with AMD and NVIDIA. A lot of the features still have bugs. I mean, we haven't revisited for a few months now. There's obviously some driver concerns there, ongoing support stuff, and there are some caveats in the sense that, resizable bar is required. So your system needs to support resizable bar and have it enabled. So AM5 does that by default now, but no other platform does. So resizable bars, a big one, and older games as well. So DirectX 11 titles, 10, 9, all that sort of stuff doesn't play well for various reasons. So yeah, it needs to be a good bit cheaper for you to take the gamble.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So it's going to be interesting to see where that falls. And I think the predictions that we sort of made since the very start of the sort of ARC launch period, which feels like this launch period has been dragging on indefinitely. But it has to offer substantially better price to performance ratio. And that's relative to AMD, who then, as you said earlier, they need to provide better price to performance ratio than NVIDIA. So it's kind of like there's two layers that Intel needs to beat versus NVIDIA and one layer versus AMD. So it's challenging. Of course, there's a price where it will make sense. Like it's not like never buy this product. It's just straight up terrible. That's unlikely to be the case. But yeah, you're sort of looking these days at it definitely being an entry level part. I think the hopes and dreams of it being sort of that even mid range competitor launching so close to next gen parts is just not going to happen. So.
Yeah, well, obviously, if it had have arrived a year ago for that price, we'd be singing its praises and it'd all be exciting.
Yeah, they probably could have priced it like $400, $500.
You could deal with needing resizable bar. You could deal with driver bugs and issues because at least you had something that hopefully could game.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll have some very detailed information on that product and another one in the not too distant future.